Alright, this is a short tutorial on a free body diagram for a skier skiing down a hill. First thing we're going to look at with the skier are the interactions he's having with this environment. And we're going to do that with an interaction diagram right here. So the first thing we'll do is we'll indicate or represent the skier like this. Now, we have different types of interactions. First of those is touch. Look at anything touching the skier, and we can see that the hill's touching the skier, so we'll represent that like this. The blue arrow represents touch force, and we'll put a T on it so that there's no question. Next, are there any gravitational interactions? Right here. Of course, most of the problems we work on in physical science will have the Earth as applying a force, so we'll note that like this. With the G for gravity. Now, that takes care of touch and gravity. Lastly is friction. Is there any friction in this situation? Well, it says down here that this object's traveling at a constant velocity, and for the skier to go down the hill at a constant velocity, there has to be friction. Otherwise, they'd be speeding up. Now, how do we note friction? Right like this over here with an F. Because that's an interaction again between the skier and the hill, but we consider that as friction, not so much touch. Alright, now that we have our interactions done, we can go to the free body diagram. And having a good interaction diagram is one of the most important things you can do to make sure you get all the forces. We'll represent the skier with a box. And the first interaction we're going to concern ourselves with is gravity. Force, the Earth pulls straight down, so we'll put the arrow straight down and we'll label that F for force with a little subscripted G, so we know that that's the force of gravity. The next force we'll look at is the touch force between the hill and the skier. Now, a lot of people have trouble with the direction of that. The best way to do it is to draw a line that is perpendicular to the hill. That's 90 degrees right there. That'll give us the direction for that touch force. I'm going to draw it out to the side here, make sure it's perpendicular. And drag it over my diagram, and we'll put an F for force, and then a subscripted hill, so that we know that's the force of the hill. A lot of people will call that force normal or even force perpendicular, but we're just going to leave it with the name of the object that's applying that force. Alright, we have one force left. That's the force of friction. The skier is going to be traveling down the hill in this direction, and the force of friction is going to be directly opposite of that, like that. Now that we've got that in the appropriate direction, we'll just drag that over to our diagram. And we'll label that with an F for force, and a little subscript for friction. Last thing we're going to do is put our net force. We'll put that off to the side, and we know it's traveling at a constant velocity, so all these forces have to cancel out. even though it's with zero net force. And that concludes the tutorial.